Hi, this is Doug Howard, President of Growth Team Strategies, with another episode of Selling the Dream. Here with my co-host, Kathi Fleck. Kathi, how are you today?
Doing great, Doug. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Except I'm struggling with the notion that we're getting so close to the end of the year. Like the numbers don't make sense to me. Like 2025 sounds like something out of a science
Ancient.
fiction movie or something. Yeah,
It does. It sounds ancient.
it does. It does. So, so I know that it's interesting. You get to this time of year and people start to put together some of their plans or having more discussions about what they're going to be doing. And I'm excited. I'm enthusiastic about the fact that it seems like more and more people are starting to have conversations about succession planning. And, we've had some opportunities to do some speaking engagements around that topic. I know we're going to be doing something in the spring with the National Wood Flooring Association around it. But, I think more and more people are realizing that these businesses, they need to have some sort of a transition plan. Now, one of the really exciting things was I know just in the last couple of weeks, you got a new certification. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. The acronym is CEPA, CEPA, right? And that stands for Certified Exit Planning Advisor. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
certified exit planning
All right.
advisor. Right.
So now we've exhausted my full range of knowledge about the, no, just kidding. But first of all, congratulations. That's a big accomplishment, right? You had to do some studying and take a test and really kind of dig into some of the philosophies behind how to get a company ready. So that's, and we've run into some people that have the CEPA certification. And so it's kind of cool now that, you're kind of bringing us into that arena. So tell us a little bit about it. First of all, how'd you even find them? Like, where did that whole idea come from? And where do you think that puts things in terms of your thinking about this whole succession process?
And that's a good question. Well, actually, we had Scott Kokenauer on our podcast series a while back,
Yep.
and I had a separate call with him, and he's the one who introduced me to it. I had never heard about it. So the Exit Planning Institute, EPI, is out of Cleveland, Ohio. And Scott is not far from Cleveland. So he does his own approach to, I don't think he's CEPA certified, but he helps people plan for the personal part of exiting a business, or as he calls the fourth quarter. And so I know when I was looking at selling my business, I was not interested in that concept whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I was more interested in the how do I sell the business? How do I get what I want out of it? And I figure I would figure out the rest later. Well, that's really not a very good approach, because you still have life after selling your business or exiting your business. And so many of us as business owners put everything we have into our business, a lot of time and effort, our identity. So much goes into the business that to have a life outside the business is a big reason why a lot of business owners don't sell. They don't know what they're going to do later. So,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, I'm very interested in succession planning. And I have found since I sold my business 2 years ago that many people don't think about it. Either this is their life, this is what they want to do, and they don't plan for it. So, it's really been a passion of mine working with you on helping people prepare themselves for succession planning. So, it's really how I got into it. After I spoke with Scott, I went on the EPI website. Then I spoke to a few people, and then they happened to this was in October. Then they happened to have a training session that came up about a week before Thanksgiving. And I didn't realize after I read the book, too, Walking to Destiny, how involved it was. I didn't really have a concept of that whatsoever. So a lot of it we do here at GPS. Some things are a little bit different. So you and I'll talk further about that.
Yeah. So Kathi, what is this sort of the general premise behind it? The idea of, because I know we've done a lot of work over the year with Value Builder, right? We're Value Builder certified. And, the general premise behind that is, there's going to be a financial structure to a company that's going to be, largely determined by profit and loss and, some of the things related to consistency and margins and future of that particular industry. but a lot of it is really built around the notion that there's things, intangible things that drive the multiplier a business sells for. And you get some sort of benchmark on what they use are, 8 areas of focus, and you try to improve those, like the owner not being involved in everything, or not being totally reliant on one employee or one customer. And as you move the needle on those things, the financials are going to be the financials. Hopefully you're building a stronger business, but at some point that multiplier should kick in. So
Mhm.
what's some of the thinking behind this sort of the CEPA philosophy, or kind of how how that would impact a business owner going through planning,
Mhm.
hopefully pretty well in advance, right?
Right. Actually, one of the things that's very evident is that exit planning is present tense. It's not something you do when you're ready to retire.
Yeah.
So if somebody is thinking about exiting, because it could be that you're ready to sell a business, but there are other things that come up. What about losing a partner? What about a divorce, or maybe the economy, or cancer, or all kinds of things can come up that could push a business owner out. And most business owners' portfolio is about 80%. Their business is about 80% of their portfolio. And it very much is those intangibles that drive the value of the business. And so a lot of what we do at GTS is also working on those intangibles, but also helping our clients understand the impact of the financials. And as you're driving the intangibles, which is some things you just mentioned, maybe
Mhm.
diversifying your client base, maybe having the team, or even the family, more aware of what's going on, so that everybody's working together on it, and bringing in a group of advisors who can help them with the financial planning, the tax planning, make sure that they have enough insurance, things that business owners don't put a lot of time into because they're so focused on driving the revenue.
Yeah.
One of the other things with CEPA is if you drive the value, you will drive the revenue. If you just focus on revenue, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be increasing that multiplier that would
Sure.
increase the value of the business. So there's a very set process that they use. It's very intentional. And I think that the help of bringing in other CEPA advisors who are specialty, such as somebody who helps with family advice, or financial planning, or CPA, all of these um, parts really help to improve or grow that intangible, and help the whole team, whether it's the business owner and his family, or her family, or leadership team, really help drive that business forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds really good. I mean, it seems like there's so many, so many different things touch a succession plan, right? Not just the finances, not just when they were going to retire, but one of the things that strikes me is that, probably 20 years ago when I had the accounting practice, there were much fewer people that talked about some of the retirement things that they talk about now, like
Right.
401ks and IRAs, and just even having a financial planner. And it's been encouraging to see that people are doing a better job of recognizing that the more of that stuff you do in advance, the bigger impact it can have, and certainly make it a lot easier for you. But when a big part of your holdings, or even your profitability that's going to turn into what you can put into some of those things, is dependent on the success of a business, there's a big gap there between the person that's looking at your financial plan and the person that's, maybe able to help you drive the business operation, right?
Hmm.
And I know
Right.
sometimes we have really great relationships with financial planners that say, well, I've built this plan, and it's predicated on being able to put a certain amount of money into investments, and that kind of thing. But also, I'm expecting some residual value to the business to be able to, cash out the business or transition the business. Um, and so I think that's a big challenge as well. So, did you get any insights as you were kind of going through the trend? I know one of the big questions that has always came up for you is, what kinds of businesses are sellable, which ones aren't really, as easy to sell. Um, was there anything that came out of the stuff that you were, kind of getting familiar with that spoke to that, or you get a sense of maybe there's certain industries that are more inclined to do some of this kind of planning work?
I don't think it was really so much industry. Now, I had a construction business, and even just in conversation, they had lots of advisors and questions and answers. Construction companies don't very much sell. Plus, they don't sell for what you might want them to sell for. But I
Hmm.
think the bigger issue is knowing where you stand. So if a business owner says, "Well, gee, I, I need $400,000 a year in order to live the way I'm living, and I don't want to change any of that," how are they going to retire? How are they going to live after the business? And so part of it is knowing what is it that you want and what do you need. Maybe you don't need 400, maybe you need 200, maybe you need
Hmm.
100. Who knows what it is? But one of the things that I find with even our clients is they don't really know what they need. And as a business owner, if we have money coming in, we have a tendency to maybe spend more, take nicer vacations, or whatever we want to do with it. So then all of a sudden that money stops coming in. How much do you really need to have in order to live? Um, and so I think that's a big part is, and we see that with some of our clients is they don't really know. They don't know when they're going to move out of the business, whether they sell it or they pass it on or they just close the doors, and how much money do they really need to have. So part of that is gives people a starting point so that they know, and then they can work towards that. So we're looking at the gap of
Hmm.
what they think the business might be worth, and then looking at a recasted EBITDA to see what the business might be actually worth, and then looking what maybe a best in class business does. So if, for example, I am, and this was my issue, is that I was the face of the company, that really devalues the business. If you have somebody who's more independent, have other workers there who can who can work the business, that is a benefit. So that will increase the value of the business. If somebody has a lot of their eggs in one basket, so to speak, that decreases the value of the business. So there are some things over a period of time the business owner can do to increase the value of the business, and then also to increase their personal value, financial value.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, Kathy, is there a time frame that if someone's going through that particular process that I know we talk a lot about 5 years. I think more and
Mhm.
more, it's like we'd be lucky to get people to look at it 2 or 3 years in advance, but reality is even 5 years isn't long enough.
Well, even with the CEPA philosophy, it's at 3 to 5 year time frame if you really work it.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference. The issue is working on the business as you're working in the business. And we know how much of a challenge that is for a lot of business owners. And so it's a very, I'm going to say, structured approach to be able to really work on the business and to put the time and money into getting all of this laid out. We do that with growth teams. We help our clients to lay out plans to get things in place, give them advice. It's very similar in that approach.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. So, in terms of, I know that like some of the people that I've come in contact with that have the CEPA certification, they actually are financial planners. I know with Value Builder, we kind of see a mix of financial planners, business brokers, and business consultants. Um, what does that community kind of look like, do you think?
Well, there's three stages of under SEPA. There's three stages. One is to help figure out the initial part and work with the business owner on getting the plan set up. And then the next part is actually preparing all the plans. And then the final part is deciding what they're going to do, stay with the business or exit the business. And so
Okay.
going through this over and over again really helps define the path for the business owner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because I mean, I find that when people get into it, they realize that a lot of the things that we are asking them to do or asking them to think about, they probably ought to be thinking about whether succession's on their mind or not. I mean, they're things
Mhm.
to just operate a better business. And then I think about some of the conversations we had a couple of weeks ago that, uh, like with Rick Baker and that. I mean, he's got it stretched out over a long period of time. And yet I think it's going to be really, to his credit, because he's strengthening the business, but he's also
Mhm.
creating some good opportunities that could go in a number of different directions.
Right. And I think that's a very smart approach to do it. And I spoke with him after our call and told him how happy I was that he was taking that with a contingency plan.
Yeah.
And his plan has changed over a period of time, whether to sell it to a group of people within the company or some of that has changed, and lengthening the time that it takes and being able to then and just to back this up, I think at that point, when you are getting the business in a good position to sell,
Yep.
exit, then it doesn't really matter, because if, for example, the employee that's in line to take over the business and buy the business, if that doesn't work out, you could sell it to somebody else, or a
Yeah.
private equity firm could come in and take over a part of it and help strengthen the business and grow it. So it positions the business owner in a really good spot to exit the business when the business owner is ready to exit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, and I think there's so many variables that, if the rest of the world did what we'd love it to do, our competitors, our employees, potential successors, then it'd be easy to say, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of play this out. But we know that even with businesses that are supposed to transition like to family members, circumstances change, attitudes change, opportunities change.
Hmm.
You got to meet last week the gentleman that was supposed to be the successor in my accounting firm,
Hmm.
right? We had a great relationship. We still do, but his plans changed, and they brought him to a different uh, part of the country, and so it's just, you look at it and go, well, it wasn't for lack of planning or developing. It was just
Well,
some of the
there's no
stuff's hard to
guarantee.
predict.
All kinds of things. I know another business owner who had a construction business was planning to sell it to one of the employees, and the employee got cancer and didn't work out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just don't know. But I don't think you want to have all your eggs in one basket. Although I did, I knew I couldn't sell it to anybody within the business. I had to go outside the business. I knew I also had a difficult type of business to sell, and I wore too many hats. So there were a lot of things that worked against me. But in the same sense, I was able to sell it. So I think the thing is that we have a lot of, I'm going to say, young clients who have maybe longer career spreads than we have. And so they have greater opportunity to reap more of their benefits, whether they stay in the business or they exit. And they can get that business ready for whenever they decide they want to. And I think that's one of the big advantages of CEPA, is really having your business ready.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it'll be interesting. I'm sure we have more conversations about it as we delve more into it, and get a chance to learn more about some of the things. But in the meantime, first of all, again, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's really
thanks.
cool.
I think
To
it
have
can
that
bring
designation.
a lot to our company as well to
Yeah.
help people. And that's really where what got me started with it, is to really be able to help our clients grow their business. So whether they're growing it to stay or growing it to exit, it's the same thing, really.
Well, and for all we know, we're growing a business that may have to transition at some point, right?
Sure.
So when we have more capabilities and we have more certifications and more avenues and relationships, right? We want to kind of be living out the same things we're telling everybody else, which
Mhm.
is, the things that make sense to do for a business that's got some staying power. So,
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, I plan to live to be like 200, but
Well, it's okay. You at 100, you may decide you don't want to work.
at 100, I'm going to have my midlife. I think if I declare a midlife crisis at 100, then I have to be guaranteed to live to 200.
Oh, is that how it works?
Well, I mean, mathematically it is, yeah. So we'll see how that works. But
That'll be interesting.
yeah, I mean, if it works, I could really be onto something. But anyhow, that said, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Kathi. It was great to talk. I know we're looking coming into the new year at some more really interesting topics, more about CEPA, more conversations with people that are in and around the succession process, and then other business owners that have just had, good and bad experiences, but things people can learn from as they're trying to, set the stage for their own
Hmm.
transition.
Yep. It's
Exciting
good
stuff.
talking to you.
All right. Thanks again, Kathi. And another episode of Selling the Dream, and we'll see you again in about a week. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Selling the Dream podcast starring Doug, Howard, and Kathi Fleck. Both Doug and Kathi have built and sold successful businesses and hope this podcast will help other small business owners do the same. Tune in every week to hear more tips for increasing the value of your company so you get the highest return for your years of hard work when it comes time to sell or transition your business. Can't wait till next week? Check out our website for more information at www.growththemes.com.